Let's start with Donald Trump's victory tour in the Middle East today. As these images of hostages being returned, as these images of families being reunited in Gaza are coming up, very, very moving and emotional to see what's happening over there. Trump gives a speech in the Knesset today. He says Marco Rubio may go down as the greatest Secretary of State in history. He takes some jabs at Miriam Adelson. Says at one point he's not sure whether he once asked whether she loves Israel more than America, and she didn't answer. It was sort of an awkward moment in the Knesset when he did that. And then he headed over to Egypt for a ceremony where he had some very kind words for Giorgia Meloni of Italy. Go ahead and roll this.
We have a young woman who's, I'm not allowed to say it because usually it's the end of your political career if you say it. She's a beautiful young woman. Now, if you use the word beautiful in the United States about a woman, that's the end of your political career, but I'll take my chances. Where is she? There she is. You don't mind being called beautiful, right? Because you are. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. She wanted to be here, and she's incredible, and they really respect her in Italy. She's a very successful politician.
I mean, listen, I'm sitting here in a baseball cap, but that woman is also incredibly well-dressed. She never misses. So you see what Trump's going. Maybe he read the CNN article about the return of the male gaze, decided that he was no longer hiding his appreciation for the female form, although I'm not sure he ever heard about the end of the male gaze, that it ever became taboo. Let's go ahead and roll this clip of Donald Trump also talking to Mark Carney of Canada, who, by the way, he just met with at the White House last week.
I'm glad you upgraded me to president.
Did I say?
Great stuff. It's good. I started.
Great stuff.
Did you hear what he said there? He taps Carney on the shoulder, and Carney says, thank you for upgrading me to president. And Trump says, oh, did I say that? He kind of taps Carney back and then goes, at least I didn't say governor, right into the hot microphone. Just another incredible moment. He was also needling Keir Starmer, obviously Prime Minister of the UK as well. So he's feeling good on this victory tour. And it's sort of easy to understand why politically, because Biden and the Democrats are really unsure of what to do in this moment. Joe Biden finally responded to the peace deal. Actually, just earlier this evening, we can put Biden's reaction up on the screen. He says, I am deeply grateful and relieved that this day has come. For the last living 20 hostages who have been through unimaginable hell and are finally reunited with their families and loved ones, and for the civilians in Gaza who have experienced immeasurable loss and will finally get the chance to rebuild their lives. He goes on to say, my admin worked relentlessly to bring hostages home, get relief to Palestinian citizens, and end the war. I commend President Trump and his team for their work to get a renewed ceasefire deal over the finish line. Ends by saying, now with the backing of the U.S. and the world, the Middle East is on a path to peace that I hope endures in a future for Israelis and Palestinians alike with equal measures of peace, dignity, and safety. This sentiment seems to be, I mean, inescapable is maybe the right word for it. It's kind of hard for Joe Biden to react in this moment because obviously there was a ceasefire secured literally on the eve of his presidency back in January. That ceasefire turned out to be temporary, and obviously that was the Trump administration pushing it over the finish line, even by the admission of the Biden administration at that point in time. And so it's a very unsteady moment right now for the left. There's no question about that. On the one hand, there are many people who don't trust this peace deal and are pessimistic about the prospect for long-term hope in the Middle East, particularly for the people of Gaza. And I think that's a perfectly defensible position. In fact, I think it's such a defensible position that basically everybody feels right now uneasy about how durable this is, how long this is able to endure, how long this lasts. But it's obvious, and we'll put this cover of Time magazine up on the screen if we have it. Donald Trump just this afternoon is now gracing the cover of Time magazine. The article says, quote, the living Israeli hostages held in Gaza have been freed under the first phase of Donald Trump's peace plan, alongside a Palestinian prisoner release. The deal may become a signature achievement of Trump's second term, and it could mark a strategic turning point for the Middle East. So that last part is obviously critical it could mark a strategic turning point for the Middle East. That's where you see the Joe Bidens and the Elizabeth Warrens of the world, who we'll talk about in just one moment, because of course it's Indigenous Peoples Day. That's where you see them struggling to grapple with the politics here, because everybody has to admit that this genuinely is new. This is a historic, sweeping peace plan. We are in phase one of it right now, as was discussed on last Wednesday's show. Just while the details were coming down, we talked about how phase one of a very, very fragile peace deal that could be littered with tripwires and all of that. But if it lasts 3 months, if it lasts 6 months, if it lasts a year, what we've just entered is a new chapter in the Middle East, because right now, these negotiations have brought together a coalition, and that coalition, including Donald Trump, who's the head of this peace board, by the way, is now responsible for trying to hold this peace together, and the war is over. I have to tell you, just before we went live tonight, I finished watching the new October 7th documentary about the Nova Music Festival on Paramount, and it just underscores the depth of the security failures that day, before, during, and after. And there was a lot of suspicion around Netanyahu's long-term objectives and intent on prolonging the conflict. And I won't weigh in on one direction or the other, except to say that many people believed he was, in some ways, afraid of what peacetime could bring, a reckoning politically for himself, perhaps. Because, again, when you revisit October 7th, now that the hostages are returned, bodies, the living hostages, that conversation about those failures. Of course, there's all of Netanyahu's own problems with corruption scandals and all of that are going to bubble to the surface. But the security failure, I think, is now going to creep back into the discourse in a way that is absolutely critical, stunning, and essential for the future of the country as well, to dig into what exactly went wrong on that day. And Netanyahu is now going to have even more questions to answer. He's been answering these questions for 2 years, but now that the war is over and it feels like the dust has settled and a new chapter has been opened, those questions are really going to mount for Netanyahu. Just a shocking documentary, too. I don't necessarily recommend watching it, because the raw footage that's spliced together between Hamas body cameras and Nova Music Festival goers on their iPhones puts it all into such stark relief. Did you know, I know you know this, chips and fries were once cooked in beef tallow until the 1990s, when corporations swapped it for cheap seed oils. Now those oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories and are linked to inflammation and metabolic issues. Somehow, of course, that got sold as, quote, healthy. But Masa Chips is flipping the script. They use just 3 ingredients: organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. No seed oils, no fillers, just bold flavor and serious crunch, strong enough to scoop guac or salsa without crumbling. I tested this out last night during the Packer game. Served some Masa Chips. People were beside themselves, jaw on the floor, wanted to get their own bags right away. Snacking on Masa is really a whole different vibe. You feel satisfied, light, and energized with zero crash, bloat, or that gross, sluggish fog. And the beef tallow is so good. That's the secret sauce. It keeps you full and focused, not mindlessly munching. My favorite flavor, I like the spicy flavor. I like lime. I like churro. The zing hits just right. So if you're ready to give Masa a try, go to masachips.com/afterparty and use code afterparty for 25% off your first order. Great deal. That's masachips.com/afterparty and code afterparty for 25% off your first order. And if you don't feel like ordering online, good news, that's fine. Masa is now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by and pick up a bag before they are gone.